Hello, and it's lovely to see you again. It's me, Bernice, the M.E Goddess. Thank you for popping by. Um, so I'm just through the other side of a bit of a crash, and I'm happy to say I seem to have come through it quite well. My carers had some fun and games with some paralysis where I wasn't in charge of all of my limbs at the same time, but as always, they handled it magnificently, and I'm very grateful to the people who care for my body when I'm not able to. Speaking of caring when I'm not able to, we've got a thing going on with for those of you that don't know, in 2015 I became bedbound and my husband had to leave his job, and I can't remember the name of the job he did, but it was a reasonably high level government position, and he was forced to leave, and we now live on the disability benefit. Um, Over the last however many years, he's had to fight so many times, and it's only because he knows how to read legislation, he understands policy, he didn't work for this particular government department, he worked for a different government department, but at a high enough level that he can argue the pants off anybody and basically hang them with their own rope. And this happens time and time and time again. And we've just gone through, we have two children living at home, I should say, as well. And I am fully bedbound with carers that come in to care for me. And he is home raising our children. But being on a benefit is actually a full-time job because he has had to fight for everything. Um, Living on a benefit, especially when you know that that is going to be your life, it's unlikely he will get to go back into the workforce full time or in any great capacity until I pass, which is hopefully many, many years away. But if anything was to happen to him, I have no idea how I would cope. And I know there are so many people out there who are faced with this trauma of being completely reliant and trusting that a system that is set up to care for the vulnerable has your best interests at heart. And yet when you come up against a culture where they don't have your best interests at heart, what do? When you can't read, you can't speak on the telephone because communication without seeing the person's face is incredibly difficult. When you can't retain information, when you can't access words or concepts, when you may physically not be able to go to appointments, when you have no option but to completely trust that the system has your best interests at heart and the person that you are talking to knows their job, knows the legislation and the policy, and wants you to have what you are entitled to according to the government policy, according to the legislation. What do you do when that system fails and when you are not capable of taking in that information, figuring out something's gone wrong, and arguing the point? Now, I have someone who can do that for me, and only because of what he did before I got sick. He can now go to high-level people within our social welfare organisations and say, peer to peer, this has gone wrong at a lower level and this is not okay. Now, I could go, all I know is we had a review and they've taken money off us that they previously gave to us because someone pushed a button and don't basically want to deal with my husband in trying to rectify that. So he has now had to escalate that. I would not be capable of doing that. I wouldn't even know what had happened, where it had gone wrong, why there was no money coming in or that amount of money coming in. And we seem to live in a culture and in a society where we really don't take care of our vulnerable. Now, I'm specifically talking about the chronically ill. It's no wonder that people just give up when they are on their own. He keeps me going. He keeps our family going. And it's like a full-time job, fighting for everything, for what we are entitled to according to government legislation. And I'm sitting here going, what would I do if I didn't have him? And I know there are so many people who don't have a honey. I call him honey. Who don't have one of him to fight for them. I can barely write my name. I can barely make my pen work when I have to sign something, let alone understand a form or anything like that. What do vulnerable people do when you're locked into a system that is supposed to be there, that you can trust, is there for your well-being, and doesn't just see you as a burden on society or a grifter, or they will make sure you get the minimum because that's all they can be bothered looking into. Little mistakes cost lives. They really, really do. And knowing that we are locked in the system for the rest of my life can be an extra overwhelming thought. And I count my blessings I have someone to fight for me. And I know there are advocates out there that can fight for people who don't have someone like my husband. Excuse me. But you have to have the energy to find them. How can I trust a sister if I didn't have him, and I would just be lying here trusting that the system was trying to look after me as it promised to do. I know no system is perfect. But when you are already forced through circumstances that are not of your making, for the chronically ill, I'm specifically talking about, to live below the poverty line and try and make a fist of it, make a best of it, so that your kids never know what's going on, so that if it wasn't for the kindness and the generosity of the people around us, our life would be a much darker place than it is. And we try to keep the light, always keep the light. Even when it's really, really hard, we try to keep the light. But we have people supporting us with that. But what if you do, if you don't? I'm just reaching out. There's no real point to this video. I'm just reaching out to say, if you're in that situation, I'm sending you a hug right now, because I don't know what I would do, and if I didn't have people supporting me. And if you're in that situation and you are in that darkness alone, please reach out. Please find someone, and don't stop. Don't stop until someone listens and someone can stand up for you. Whoever that is. A doctor, an MP, an advocate, whoever that is. Anyway, I think my thing is glitching, so I will sign off, and I will catch up with you next time. Take care. Try and find something beautiful in each day, and I will see you next time. Toodles.